guys, welcome to the discussion portion of the playthrough. Again, we have the KO King. How you doing, Russ?
Good.
Always, thanks for the rules, Dr. J.
No problem.
He always does good. And then we have, I have to say, you're probably the most dapper looking out of all of us. So
Thank you. Thank you
we
very
have
much.
Zach, the global guru. So if you guys haven't noticed,
Angus Young.
if you guys haven't noticed, tonight we are actually talking about The Godfather, which was one of those games that I actually picked up because I was like, I like CMON games. I like Eric Lang games. Which game do we not, have in between all of us? And it was The Godfather. So I picked it up, and I think after that first play, I just fell in love with it.
This was a game that took this group forever to get to. Like we went to a convention and there was one sitting there for like $40.
Yeah, Russ, why'd you pass that one up?
Days, like 3 days straight. And Russ is like, I'm thinking about it. I'm not gonna get it. And the game had been out for a long time before one of us finally picked it up. And I'd actually played it once before, and I kept being like, "This is a good game."
Which is
this
funny
is a good
because
game.
I actually knew this. So when this was getting released, I was like, "Oh, I'm getting this. It comes out like in 2 months," and then I ended up not getting it, and then I just postponed, and I was
put it
like,
off
maybe
for like
a better
8
deal
months or
and-
something. It
Yeah,
was a long
it finally
time.
went out on sale. I'm like, okay, I'll get it if no one else is getting it.
And when we played it, we're like, how have we not played this already?
Yeah.
It was a blast.
And then after we played it, I spent like the next week watching
The Godfather. I would get messages from Russ. It's like, there's really nothing that happens in this movie, but I love every minute of it.
I actually went back and watched it, and I was like, I hate the movies. I don't like the movies.
It's so thematic.
It's
to
very
the first
thematic, yeah.
Godfather.
It is.
It's awesome.
Yeah, and I like how you described it in the how to play that. If you break this all down, this is really a worker placement.
Oh,
in
yeah,
disguise.
It's absolutely a worker placement game.
But it's not your typical worker
Yeah.
placement
No.
because it has a lot of other things to it, like kind of collections a little bit, kind of area control-ish. It's got a lot of cool different things that's not typical to a worker placement.
Typical to a lot of Eric Lang games, if you are not in a good mood, you should not play this game.
Yeah,
Because
so
you can get really salty
Yeah.
Oh, my
really
goodness, yeah.
fast.
because we'll do spoiler. If you play this game, people are going to end up in the river.
oh, people get shot all the time, and
So last
it's-
night was
it
the
gets
first
really
time I
salty.
had played it and not just been like, I just want a car bomb
Yeah.
and kill everybody. First time I won, but
Yeah,
See,
time I had to spend the
for
whole
me,
time killing
it was
people.
hard to get like salty or mad at someone because it was so fun and cool
Yeah.
to be like, oh man,
Like,
you just killed us
yeah,
all.
I-
but it's not game threatening. Like you're not going to
Yeah.
lose off of just one
one
little
word.
thing.
Because I remember the first time we played, I had like a car bomb or something. So I was like straight up just looking, where can I blow up the most? And it just happened to be the one where Jared had like 3 or 4 guys.
oh my gosh!
And I just
every single one of my figures was in the river at the end of that round, and I was like, I control none of the board. It was impossible for me to get any control of the board because all my guys were dead.
Yeah, but you didn't hate me for it, right? Because it's like, I had to, man. I'm
No,
sorry.
I mean, it's one of those games that you go into.
You
and
hated the
tell
game because of
people-
all the draws that you were getting.
Yeah. Like there's some luck
you were getting
involved in
salty
the game.
last night.
Yeah.
with
I was
me and
getting
Kevin
salty
doing-
last
Me and
night.
Kevin were playing muscling in, and you just kept getting salty. Like, I can't get that job. I just keep getting shakedown.
I'd go and draw the jobs, and I try to draw jobs 3 times in one round, and I got like nothing but shakedowns, and I hate the shakedown cards. My least favorite job in the whole game, and I was discarding them like crazy and getting crummy jobs, and in the end, it was still a really close game.
Yeah, it ended up actually being
your move determined who
all
won.
your
Yeah.
placement of your last guy determined the winner,
whole
which
game.
was crazy.
Which
So,
didn't matter to me because either way, I would have lost, right?
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
it would have changed me and Kevin. I would have been in last. Kevin would have won. So I appreciate where you're
I can I say I clearly remember you doing that. It's like, I'm gonna do you a solid, Russ, when you did that move.
Yeah, no.
And ended up
I totally
winning it
did him
for
a
him.
solid, and that changed the game.
So what I liked about that is that was the first game I felt like territory control was a major factor. It's always kind of a factor, but the 5-point bonus at the end of that was dictated who won because we were so close with our money and everything else.
Yeah, and I feel like prior to us playing last night, I didn't focus enough on territory control, and that actually kept me from even being close any other time we've played.
Well, it was interesting too because in other games that we've played, the allies that have come out, like the police chief is always there, and the mayor always seems to be
so
there.
good.
And I like to buy the mayor, and he likes to buy the police chief, so he's off killing people, and I'm off, manipulating my people. But last night they didn't show up at all, and so I had to use the small time bookie and he rewards you for controlling territories. So I'm like, all right, I'm gonna sink some time into controlling territories this time, and it actually worked out really well. I didn't end up winning, but it was a really, really close game, and it was really fun.
They do a good job in this where it makes all of the different avenues of points or basically getting your money pretty balanced. I know you may not agree with it, but some of these, like, you kind of have to do a little of everything to actually win. You can't just be like, I'm going gung-ho on just, allies or something like that. You really got to get a little bit of everything, and they've done a good job of balancing it.
And what we noticed with the player count, this game actually scales pretty well. In terms of it, because we only played 3 last night. Normally we were playing 5.
3 players like a quick game. It feels like a really fast play. 5 players scales up really well, but it's not the quick 60-minute game.
But it's awesome that it has that 5th player, because a lot of them cap at 4, where it's cool you can get that one extra player.
Yeah. So it's an interesting play with a lot of things, because you can't. One thing I love is that you have to bank your money. You kind of have to launder it, which is very thematic.
You almost forget about that being like, that's how you win.
But
if you get so caught up in other parts, it's like, oh wait, I actually need to get money.
You have to tell your opponents what you're laundering, right? So yesterday, which happens all the
Mister,
time, when
I'm going to put 5s in all mine.
When I decide to launder a bunch of money, it always gets taken with that job that lets you steal money from your opponent's suitcases.
Wasn't it extortion, I think?
Yeah.
But that's the balance. That's the balance of the game that I love.
Every time
if someone's putting tons of stuff,
every time someone does that,
I've never seen Russ ever play that job before, and I play it almost every game at least once. And it was funny because last night when we were playing, Kevin did it to Russ pretty early on. And Russ is like, I'm going to launder a 5. And you have to tell him what you're laundering. So he's like, I'm laundering a 5. I got a big target on my back now. So Kevin does it, and then a couple rounds later, I'm like, I still think Russ is in the lead, so I did it.
I tell Jared, I've never had so much in my like, what was I thinking? And then he's like, next play, right? Like a minute after saying, he's like, extortion.
Yeah, because
I'm like,
I remember
I didn't even have any small bills. I can't believe I managed to win, because at the end I still only had $1 in there. The rest were 5s and 2s.
Yeah, and it was really interesting too, because at the end of the game you had a wad of 5s in there, and I didn't have a single 5 in mine. I had nothing but small bills, but it was still a close game. I almost had as much money in there as you did, which was really kind of interesting. There's different strategies that you can use playing the game. There's not just one strategy to win.
So it's interesting. We had one play a while ago that I didn't launder early enough, and there's only so many laundering on the board to start with, but you start with money, so you almost need to do that in one of your first plays if you want to get an ally. Because I went through that game, the first round, with I couldn't launder anything, which eliminated allies and really hindered. So it doesn't look like it's an important thing right off the bat, because you're like, I just had the money we started with, but you have to get that.
I've got
in your
time.
suitcase.
I have a few rounds to start putting money in my suitcase. I don't have to do it right away.
Right.
But if you do it right away, those allies are huge, because one, they give you an extra action, which means other people are going to get done before you get done.
Yeah, you got to work on just bleeding out the round, I think.
Yeah, because I remember I couldn't get any allies, and I knew it'd be like 2 extra turns for you guys each round, that I was just like, I'm just waiting.
And one of the things I really like about this game is somebody doesn't get an ally. No matter how many people you play with, there's one person who doesn't get an ally. And so if you don't get one round, you need to try really hard to do it later. And I've learned that there have been times where I've gone into the 4th round with nothing in my suitcase because I bid it all for an ally, and it ended up paying off in the end.
Well, and you also have to sacrifice your hand, because you have to discard down.
Yeah.
So if someone goes, which I tend to do, I tend to like 3 or 4 allies in my hand by the end of the game, at least 3, right? Because 3 rounds.
It's because you're a hoarder. We all know you're a hoarder.
it really allows that later play in the rounds where you get to keep doing stuff, and then what I like to do is bleed it out and then car bomb it, and because car bomb kills everything in an area other than your guys, and it's just, man, that's just so fun throwing everybody's people in the Hudson River, except for if you're playing with a salty person, because when you do that and the person's salty, it's always like, yeesh, don't get mad.
This game is all about timing, right?
Yeah.
It totally
Whether
is.
you're like going after someone or the way you're choosing stuff, if you can time things right and get them triggered, you just don't want to paint a big target on yourself.
But it's like being patient, but not too patient. Like you've got to
you got to do it right. And I love the balance too when you have the time between when you put out your family members and when you put out your thugs, because that the landscape changes drastically.
That happened to me last night when we were playing, because I was like, oh, I'm going to hang on to my family members for later in the round so I can do more later. And you guys took all the good family member spots. Like there was nothing but junk spots left for me. And I was like, well, I waited way too long to put my family member out and I ended up getting like 2 things out of it. So yeah, there's a lot of timing. Like you got to put your family members out at the right time, put your thugs down at the right time, and
make sure you have allies that work really well with your strategy. So if you time something, you're like, oh, I'm going to move that now, and you're like last. Use this ally to move one. You pop in there, can totally change the game.
Car bombing someone, and then like taking over the territory.
Yeah. So it's awesome when you get those combos. It feels good, and it's really strategic to hurt someone.
I love the tiles.
It allows the replayability a lot, because I mean I think we didn't even get any drugs whatsoever.
I actually love that
playthrough,
thematically about this game, which is kind of a subtle thing, is the drugs are this wild card, because in the movie that's what starts a lot of the whole thing.
Spoilers.
Well, hopefully, if it's a spoiler at this point, I mean, it's from 72.
72.
If it's a spoiler at this point, then yeah. But I just love that thematic part to it, because when the drugs come out of the game, it really alters everything too, because people want to go there. The territory's a bigger deal, because it gives you that wild card.
Yeah. So, Jared, I have to ask you, how do you feel about the rule book? Since
the rule book is pretty all right as far as learning the game your first time. If you need to go back and look something up later, like an interaction that you have a question about, it's not very good for doing that. And that's just because one of my biggest pet peeves, there's no index, there's nothing to guide you to what it is that you're looking for. And so if you have a question about, like for instance, if you control a turf and somebody goes and puts someone there, if they shake down the front of a business, then you get the bonus from that. So if I want to look up how that turf control thing works, there's no index or anything to tell me go to this page and look it up. Instead, I kind of have to go through the whole rule book and kind of find it. And really, there's like 2 or 3 different spots in the rule book where they mention it. Mm-hmm. And so it's just not clear that way. And really, rule books, I think, should be reference guides more than
or provide both, right?
Yeah, or provide both. Provide a second rule book just for looking stuff up. But other than that, it's a really good rule book. If you're learning it for your first time, it's really easy to learn it out of the rule book. I mean, it's not a complicated game.
It's really not a complicated game. I think that's why I like it.
The rules are simple. The strategy is deeper.
Yeah. All right.
It's a good starter game for people, I think.
Yeah.
It's something you can teach. It's not Catan, but it's,
if you have like simple. A huge movie buff fan, I would pick, this would be the one.
Yeah.
I'd be like,
I mean,
you got to try this.
One of the things I really like about this game that is unique for worker placement is that, but going into final scoring, you really have no idea how many points the other players have.
You typically have no idea how much you have, really.
Like typically other worker placement games, I mean, you can follow along.
Yeah, where you kind of know who the lead is.
Yeah, Lords of Waterdeep, there's a track. Champions of Midgard, you can kind of tell because you've seen people go and fight monsters or whatever. This one, like, after somebody says I'm laundering a 3 for like the 7th time, you lose count. Forget how much they have in their suitcase, and you just kind of have to go off of like, all right. And if someone's being quiet and they have to tell, but if they're like, all right, I'm laundering some money, but somebody's louder, is like, I'm laundering 2 5s.
Or to my advantage when you guys don't pay attention.
Yeah.
Because I'd be like, hey, I'm putting money in. I'm like, I don't know if they heard
honestly,
it.
going into the final round, I always think, I have no idea who's in the lead.
It's one of those where you want to look like you're not winning the whole game.
Yeah.
Like you could kind of fake it, be like, I'm just doing so bad, and then totally blow everyone away.
Well, which is,
if you play it right.
Which is really interesting because we had that game that we played, Jared, where it felt like you
I should have been.
I
felt like
in the lead.
I was ahead by like 30 points, like 30 money ahead of anyone else, and I lost.
And Skyler ended up beating you by like 2 or 3 points. I'm like, how did that happened because it felt like you controlled.
There was no way anybody
so
could catch up, and we were playing for second.
Yeah,
that was
real.
that was
you
pretty-
put a target on yourself a lot though. Where
Yeah,
you, just
you
make
tend to do that.
Make it feel like you're
tend to do
doing
that.
really well
if you put
or
a
really
target
bad.
with your in this game in round 1, if you put a target on your back,
You-
like Ben did when we played,
Oh my goodness.
like
it's rough.
it can turn south.
that-
You can't put a target on your back in round 1 in this game. or
That
you
game,
just
I
go-
put a target on
Which
my
just
back.
makes it even
but
better
I
for
was
the
in
theme.
complete control of like it felt like it was 3-on-1, and I was
Yeah.
like, I don't even care. I can do it. You know, like that's how confident I was feeling that game. And yeah, I ended up losing by like 2 points or something like that.
And then that other game where Ben put a target on his back in the round 1, he was killing it in round 1. And then just car bomb and other stuff round 2, it just went south, and he ended up in last place.
Russ had
Like,
no
it was-
money in his suitcase going into the final
Yes.
round. And Ben was like, at least I can get third place. And Russ edged him out for third place, and he lost, and he was so salty.
We should not have gone into Bloodborne right after that, which we did, but we should not have gone into
It was a
Bloodborne
salty
right after
night.
that.
for some
So
people.
so one of the other things I got to ask you guys is the component quality. So the one thing we wanted to make sure we mentioned is the insert in this is actually pretty solid.
Yeah.
Where it has pieces for everything, and I just having these suitcase boxes.
It's
Anytime
overkill, but it's
yeah,
awesome.
I just see them, I'm like, oh, this is so cool. You could have just like had a card cover, like
Yeah,
you know,
I know
pouch.
Russ doesn't like the bases for the minis too much.
Because he's a miniature
think they're
snob. We
okay.
all know Russ is a miniature
And
snob.
honestly, like this was a CMON game that didn't go the Kickstarter route, and so you get really good quality for a game that didn't go the Kickstarter route.
I think it's almost underrated because it didn't get the publicity of Kickstarter. You don't
Yeah.
hear a ton about it, and so I think it's one of their more underrated games. Even though it was made by Eric Lang, who does
It's
a lot of
growing.
the other stuff,
You know,
it is. And if you play it, everyone that plays it, I've talked to, they're like, "Yep, it's a keeper. It's fun." And I mean, the quality of these are really good. They're not hefty like some of their other stuff, but you look at
details
them,
are
yeah,
pretty
the
awesome.
details,
Yeah.
like their gear and their garb of what they're wearing, the guns, they look really good.
Yeah, I
even
like
though
the
they're
fat
not
guy with the
super
sawn
heavy.
off shotgun.
the
He's my
beautiful
favorite.
horse head.
Oh
that
yeah,
Yes.
We
everybody
didn't
loves.
mention that, but that's the first player token, the
love it.
horse head on the sheets, which is kind of gross but cool.
well, and the price point. I mean, you can find this.
Fairly cheap.
Yeah, I think I paid like 40.
Yeah,
Like,
Yeah. I think I got
I
mine.
think for the price, it's a great
Yeah.
deal with what you get. I mean, good cardboard stuff, good quality cards, the minis, tokens. You get a little bit of everything, even some nice.
it's
tin.
like
Yeah.
Champions and Midgard meet Blood Rage almost. It's kind of that you blow everybody up, you territory control, you play cards.
And
you
even
do
if you've never
jobs.
seen the movie like me, it's really easy to get into the theme, and it was really fun.
Yeah.
The art's awesome. They're like oil paintings. It
yeah,
just
of,
really,
of all of it.
yeah.
Russ keeps saying that he needs a cat around, but I got to tell you, Russ, I'm allergic to cats.
Oh, I'm allergic to cats.
That's not the greatest idea for us
I'll
to
just
keep a
use
cat
my
around.
bunny.
Yeah. All right. So to wrap it up, let's you guys' overall impressions of the game. So Zach, you want to go first?
Yeah, I love it. I mean, it's one of my favorite games I've played this year. I was super impressed. I didn't know a lot coming into it, but as soon as we played it, I'm like, yeah, we need to play this more, get it to the table more often.
This is probably my favorite worker placement game right now, and that the reason for that I think is that this game doesn't have a Euro feel, and lots of worker placement games tend to have a very Euro feel.
Which you do
know.
not like whatsoever, and
I
I
don't.
love to give you crap about it.
I like
It's a different theme than most worker placements,
Yeah, it
like
really
not
is.
fantasy, which
Yeah,
is
it's not
most
just
of
putting
them.
work. It's not just putting workers out and doing stuff. It's blowing people up. There's a lot of player interaction, a lot of chance involved in the game with the drawing the jobs and getting the buildings and stuff. And so there's a lot that's not in your control, and I really like that. So this is probably, like I said, my favorite worker placement game at the time because of that. Right now.
I mean, it's Eric Lang, so it's good. But I love it because it's light but heavy, if that makes sense. It's easy to teach. It's one of the games that I go into knowing like all my guys are gonna die. Like I just want to put stuff in the river, and so it's pretty quick that way. It's easy to set up. It gets a lot of play, and I have special lights and stuff just for when we play this to really set the tone. So that kind of says how I like it.
Yeah, I love this game. I highly recommend it. Even if you're just a casual gamer or you're a hardcore gamer, I feel like there's something in this that you'll like. Even if you just like the theme, Highly recommend you play with the movie soundtracks going on in the background or using the
first.
dice.
Remember the
So
first
great.
time we played, we had the mellow dice or the soundtrack going. And right as it was like the crescendo, as Zach was putting the last guy on, it was like perfect. You couldn't time it better.
So we highly recommend that. So this is The Godfather, and then we just want to give a shout out to Micah, Russ's son, for running the camera tonight. You've done a great favor to the family, so we appreciate that. So make sure you guys check it out. We want to hear from you guys. If you guys have played this or you have any questions about it, leave them in the comments below, and make sure you like and subscribe to the playthrough. Check out theplaythru.com for our other videos and stuff. And even we could just make a playthrough of all the how-tos, so all you see is Jared and not the rest of us if you're a Jared fan. All right, guys. Thank you so much, and we will see you next time on the playthrough.